So, you've got a manual testing interview on the horizon. Perfect. You are in exactly the right place. We're about to walk through the questions you're almost guaranteed to face, and more importantly, give you clear, simple answers so you can walk into that room with some serious confidence. Let's get started.
You know, prepping for a technical interview, it can feel like you're trying to cram an entire library into your head overnight, right? But it really doesn't have to be that stressful. The secret isn't about memorizing a bunch of jargon. It's about truly understanding the core ideas so you can talk about them naturally.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down the most common questions, pair them with simple answers, and use really clear examples. By the time we're done, you'll have a solid framework to handle pretty much anything they throw your way. So let's kick things off with the absolute foundation.
Okay, first things first, we gotta build that solid foundation. You'll find that interviewers almost always start right here, just to check your basic understanding. The question is simple. What exactly is software testing?
You know, at its heart, it's actually pretty simple. Software testing is just the process of checking if an application works the way it's supposed to. Think of yourself as a detective. Your job is to make sure the software does what the users and the business actually expect it to do.
And here's a super simple way to explain it. Imagine a basic calculator app. Testing is just making sure that when you punch in 2 plus 2, you get 4, and not 5. It's really that fundamental. It's all about confirming that things are correct, which is how you build a product people can rely on.
All right, so we've got a handle on what testing is. Now let's get into the core principles that guide how we test. This is a big one because interviewers love to ask comparison questions in this area. If you can nail this part, you're really going to stand out.
First up, let's talk about verification. The key question to remember here is, are we building the product right? The best analogy is checking an architect's blueprint for a house before any construction starts. You're just looking at the plans, the documents, the design, making sure the whole process is on the right track from the get-go. Now, on the flip side, you've got validation. And here the question shifts just a little. Now we're asking, are we building the right product? To stick with our house analogy, this is like walking through the finished house after it's been built. Does it actually meet your needs? Is the kitchen where you wanted it? It's all about checking the final product against what the user really asked for.
So let's boil it down. Verification is proactive. You're checking the blueprint before you build. Validation is reactive. You're walking through the finished house. See the difference? One is all about preventing defects. The other is about finding them.
And what's cool is how this ties directly into two other big terms, QA and QC. Let's start with quality assurance, or QA. This is a proactive process. It's all about setting up good systems and procedures to stop defects from even happening. It's like having a fantastic detailed construction plan so you avoid making mistakes later on.
Then there's quality control, or QC. This is the reactive part. It's the hands-on work of actually finding defects in the finished product. This is you inspecting the app, hunting for bugs, and making sure the final thing that goes out the door is as clean as possible. So remember, QA is about the process, and QC is about the product. Okay, so those are the big picture principles. But what does this all look like in your day-to-day job? Let's zoom in a bit and talk about the actual workflow and the kinds of things you'll be working on as a tester. So here's something that trips a lot of people up: the difference between a test scenario and a test case. It's simple, really. A test scenario is the high-level what you want to test. Something like verify login functionality. But the test case, that's the detailed how. It's the literal step-by-step instructions. Enter username, enter password, click the login button, and then check that you actually got to the homepage. Okay, so what happens when you find a bug? Well, it goes on a little journey we call the bug life cycle. First, when you find it, its status is new. Then it gets assigned to a developer. They do their magic until it's fixed. After that, it comes right back to you to retest. And if everything looks good, you mark it as closed. That's it.
Let's make that more concrete. Imagine the login button on a website is totally broken. You find it, boom, its status is new. You write up the report, and it gets handed off to a developer. Now it's assigned. They fix the code and send it back. You then retest that button, make sure it works perfectly, and then you get to close that ticket. That's the whole cycle right there.
Now, finding bugs is obviously a huge part of the job. But what separates a good tester from a great one is knowing which bugs actually matter the most. This is where we shift into more strategic thinking, talking about impact and how you prioritize your work.
So let's break down severity versus priority.
Severity is all about the technical impact a bug has on the system. A high-severity bug is a total showstopper. For example, if a banking app crashes every single time you click the transfer button, well, that's a massive failure of the system. That's high severity.
Priority, on the other hand, is about the business urgency. How quickly does this need to be fixed? And here's the really interesting part. You can have a bug that's low severity but high priority. Think about a spelling mistake on the company's homepage. Something like success with one C. Technically, it breaks nothing. The site still works, but because it's front and center and looks really unprofessional, it's a super high priority to get it fixed, like yesterday.
All right, next up, two terms you'll hear all the time: smoke and sanity testing. The easiest way to think about it is this. Smoke testing is a quick, wide, but shallow check on a brand new build. We're just asking, does the app even open? Can I log in? We're just checking for major fires, basically. Sanity testing is different. It's narrow but deep. It happens after a bug fix or a small change, just to make sure that one specific thing, like the forgot password feature, is now working exactly as it should.
And finally, let's tackle a huge category: functional versus non-functional testing. Functional testing answers the question, does it work? It checks specific actions. Does the login button actually log me in? Does the sign-up form create a new account? Non-functional testing asks a different question: how well does it work? This covers things like performance. Can 1,000 people log in at the same time? Or usability. Is that login button even easy for someone to find?
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here, right? From the absolute basics of what testing even is, all the way to some key strategic concepts. So what's the one big thing you need to remember to tie all of this together for your interview?
It really boils down to this. Preparation is the absolute key to confidence. When you truly understand these concepts, not just memorize the words, and you can explain them using simple analogies like we've been doing here, that's what's going to make you stand out from the crowd.
Look, you now have the framework to answer their questions confidently. The only thing left to do is to show them not just what you know, but how you think. So the real question they're asking isn't just, can you test? It's, what kind of thoughtful, user-focused tester are you going to be? Now go in there and show them.